if anybody comes to you and says they're in business or they've got an idea to make money, that's probably where I'd run away from, because it's the wrong, for me, that's the wrong business model. And it would not be, it's the wrong business model because it can't be sustainable.
Hi, my name is Vindhya V. This is Art of the Extraordinary, the podcast for those of you who's ready to play a much bigger game and leave an extraordinary legacy behind. I'm glad you're here, and it's time to make your quantum leap.
Hey guys, it's Vindhya. I'm a high performance coach and I help build high performing teams that make you look great. Every week I bring on guests who have done pretty extraordinary things in the world, and I dig deeper in a quest to finding out what has made them different and what have they done different. Today my guest on the show is Troy Douglas. He's the co-founder and global CEO of Nexba. It's Australia's leading naturally sugar-free beverage brand, now sold over 3,000 outlets nationally. With a passion for innovation, Troy now heads up the international strategy and growth and direction of Nexba brand. Now here is why this episode is special. Nexba was created with the vision to bring naturally sugar-free innovation to Australians and beyond in a war against obesity and diabetes. Now, 8 years since its inception, Nexba have received widespread recognition for their achievements in innovating and disrupting Australia's beverage industry, including winning Product of the Year in 2017 and the inaugural Telstra's Alumni Achievement Award in 2018. In 2018, as global CEO, Troy led Nexba into their first international market, signing a major deal with UK supermarket giant Sainsbury's. Now, what is special about the brand that they have built is that the brand was built in a highly competitive, already very saturated market. So in today's episode, you would hear more from Troy about how they stayed on top of competition in such a highly saturated market, competitive market with already a lot of giants playing in the market. While a lot of people would go, oh my god, that is definitely not a field that we want to get into, they have gone about doing things differently, and that has been their key to success. So we're going to hear from him about the secret ingredients that made Nexba special and that saw its success that it has seen so far, and all the great things that they are doing right now as well. There are going to be a lot of golden nuggets, as I always promise. So let's jump into our episode today. Troy, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have you today.
India, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here as well.
Now, I know about your story and your brand story, but for those of us in the audience who do not know about you, just tell us a little bit about the journey that you've been on, because I think it's been a crazy one. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to work out where to start. It's actually now been a 9-year journey since Nexba's begun. But for those listening, my name's Troy Douglas. My business partner, Drew Bilby, is also my brother-in-law. And essentially, 9 years ago, back in 2010, he was over in a place called Rio Nexpa over in Mexico, and was inspired by the better for you wealth of products and options. And he then came back to Australia, tapped me on the shoulder. At the time, I was studying law and communications, and he was like, do you want to help me start a beverage company? And as all logical answers to that, I was like, sure. But I think what's been really exciting for us is, so Nexba today is, our vision is really about being Australia's naturally brave brand, delivering naturally sugar-free innovation to the world. So we've got a multitude of products in Coles and Woolworths, but it began many years ago, and we actually ended up importing a canning line, setting up a factory in Sydney out in Hornsby, and basically hit the pavement trying to sell what we had at the time, which was iced tea. And today now the business extends into multiple product ranges in terms of soft drinks, sparkling waters, tonic waters, and much more functional stuff now with Woolies, we launched kombucha, and I've got probiotic waters with Chemist Warehouse and things like that. And my role's really evolved into now how do we share this Australian innovation overseas. So we recently, in November last year, we won Sainsbury's as well, which is a really exciting coup. So that's I'm trying to be sync. Feel free to now we can break down that, India.
Absolutely. Well, do you feel that it has been 9 years, or do you feel that it feels like it's been longer given what you guys have been through?
Well, I think when I look at photos of me at the beginning, I think, wow, I've aged. But I actually think it's been an incredibly fast journey. I think there's very rare few businesses that you hear about which are an easy ride. So I think we've had many challenging points, but ultimately, I think what's exciting today is both Drew and myself are more energized now about the business. We are in very much high growth, so it's a really exciting time. We've got great people in the business, and my role constantly evolves and adapts to how do we add value to the future growth as well. So, no, I think it's been a really positive time, and only when you look at the actual every year go past, I realise how many years it has been, and I might not look as young.
Well, you guys have a really interesting story because you have law, like you come from a law background and your brother-in-law comes from an engineering background, and that has got nothing to do with what you guys actually build as a brand. How did that all happen?
Yeah, it's a great fact, I guess, but I think we're both passionate about building a business that can have an impact. So a big thing behind Nexba is the fact that we genuinely believe that the greater consumption of naturally sugar-free alternatives means reduced sugar consumption and artificial ingredients, which do have significant impacts on the health and well-being of consumers. So for me, my background, so at the time, Drew was obviously full-time working as an engineer. I was still studying my law degree. It actually took me 10 years. I left my law degree after having completed 4 years, and it took me another 6 years to finish my final year in terms of my law degree. But I think I had the great experience of working while studying at a marketing agency with a lady called Sharon Williams at Taurus Marketing, who was an incredible networker and taught me a lot about how to build relationships and grow brand equity. And then my experience in law I was also very fortunate to have a stint as a paralegal within quite a large top tier law firm in terms of Allen and Overy. So I think ultimately key to Nexba's story has been the fact that we did dive into Nexba without having backgrounds in the food and beverage industry, but ultimately because of how young we were passionate about what we were doing, and it gave us we weren't shy of reaching out to incredible people who have been successful in food and beverages. So ex-CEOs of Coca-Cola, Nudie Beverages, all sorts of people who were really willing to share their experiences in the industry. And then ultimately that's what's helped us, I guess, build our business over time.
If you look at the food and beverages industry, I think that's one of the toughest industries to get into because there is already a lot of competition. And also I get that you guys are so passionate about the product, and I'm with you when you say, that we need to just eliminate sugar and try to go into natural things, and just so passionate about that. And as a culture, we are becoming more and more aware of it as well. Now, there are a lot of people who have got really great ideas, but they don't see the light of the day of that idea actually coming to fruition and, actually becoming a big brand that is built across multiple continents. So having an idea and then actually taking it to something really big like you guys have, that obviously, my guess is if you have to put in a secret ingredient to doing something like that, what would you say that is?
Great question. I think for us, the fact that I'll start with, there's a gentleman called Peter Barron who we call the godfather Nexba. He was in our little video on our website, which I look a lot younger in, but he, I guess, instilled in both Drew and myself really early on that success is the byproduct of doing business right. We bootstrapped the company for many years, nearly 7 years, I guess, and then recently we're in the very live final stages of completing our first 6 million Series A capital raise. The reason I share that is the fact that we bootstrapped allowed us to learn, work with our retailers and our partners with the products that we had, to really kind of find what will have an impact on shelf and allow us to be in a position of, we're now no longer a startup, we're very much a scale-up business. So I think the thing that has allowed us to survive and now be in a position of really accelerated growth is the fact that we were persistent and we were very clear from the beginning of a point of difference and a gap in the industry, which is dominated by large multinationals, to then have an opportunity to add value and drive sales for your customers. So for us, if you think of that, Coles and Woolworths in the Australian market being the big retailers, then it's how can we support both of those customers, add value to Australian consumers with choice of products to consume. And so a lot of that collaborative relationships and having an approach to a partnership for sales, that collaborative approach is, I think, a really key ingredient, as is Nexba as a key ingredient.
Yeah, of course. Well, that is so interesting because a lot of people, when they first start a brand or a business or when they have an idea, usually the idea is to just learn everything by ourselves, figure it out all by ourselves. But I think what you guys have done is actually use relationships to kind of help accelerate your growth and accelerate your learning curve, and that means that you have cut your learning curve probably in half or more, and that has actually excelled you guys to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question that there was I think in the early stages, it was okay for Drew and I to almost be a little naive because we weren't from the industry. Obviously, that is not the case today. We're really leading the industry in terms of naturally sugar-free innovation, but it did take us as a business 6 years to actually get to the point where we were able to patent and have a proprietary blend of ingredients, which is essentially what our essence and secret to our scaled growth now, which is Nexba and our natural sweetener blend, which allows us to emulate the taste and profile of sugar, and we can apply that our Nexba core essence into any food and beverage products.
What was kind of the process like before you decided, oh, okay, actually this is something that could possibly become really big? Did you ever know that? Or like, what was the point that you kind of decided, or you got the idea, you know what, actually we can build this into something bigger?
I think Drew and I both from the get-go had a big ambition. So I think getting clarity, and it becomes even more important as you grow and you build a team, to be clear on your ambition and where you want to build something, I think has always been there. I think that it became really crystal clear once we actually perfected and had our ability to be naturally sugar-free, which took us 6 years. So once we had that, that's when we've really step changed the business, and we're now really custodians. So for any businesses, that you go from being a private, totally self-funded, to then having people that you respect and admire back you and believe in your journey and your story. That puts another layer of professionalism and accountability, where you are custodians of these people's worth, the money that they've worked hard to have the ability to choose to invest. So I think that really that it helps you affirm that ambition and that strategy, and you really need to provide growth and a pathway that can hopefully see people be happy that they've made the decision to back you.
Well, I really like that the idea that you guys actually you keep on saying that it took you 6 years. I guess 6 years is the point where, it actually became your thing and your unique value proposition, and that is your differentiation in such a saturated market. And at that point, you can actually, be free and speak loudly about, okay, this is actually who we are, and this is what we do, and this is what we believe, until you become very clear on who your market is and who you are serving and what you stand for. I guess I guess that's critical to even having anyone else's backing, right?
Yeah, I think that it's. I see many businesses start and fail, or over the years we've seen many brands launch backed by multinationals, or they are multinational brands being launched, and they've spent incredible amounts above the line, but ultimately they don't stack up for what consumers actually want. So whilst we're a very emerging business, without spending money above the line, we can still outperform in-store sales. So I think the organic growth, improving taste loyalty, and being willing to change and adapt over and over again until it's something that is really resonating is important. So we're seen as a very young, scaling up brand. We do have a graveyard of products that we've launched and haven't hit the mark in terms of the exact run rates we've got, but they've been an evolution to get us to the point now where we do have many ranges of products that are hitting very well with consumers, which is, I guess, the exciting thing. But if you weren't willing to realize that you've got something that does need to be adapted and changed, then I think that's where a lot of people can fall down, I guess.
Well, you did touch on it a little bit about, how other business you've seen them, rise and fall within such a short period. What would you say, like some of the common myths that people have in building a brand that would actually stand the test of time?
I think ultimately it all comes down to brand equity and standing for something. So I think that businesses today, there is a definite rise of challenger brands, and challenger brands being those that have meaning and stand for something. So for us, whilst we are 100% a profit with purpose business, well, maybe that's the point. It's the fact that you've got a purpose behind the business. And for us, what drives us is if we could accelerate our growth in an industry which is typically dominated by giants, then we can encourage those giants to accelerate their innovation pipelines to be naturally sugar-free. And the impact of every category that's either high sugar or artificial becoming naturally sugar-free is going to be a really tremendous one on on everybody's life in terms of helping to reduce incidence of diabetes, obesity, all those type of really serious health problems that we have.
Since you guys have started going into international markets, and especially the US, I know that the sugar industry over there is pretty massive, in fact, across the whole globe. So how has that played into your plans and strategies and your brand awareness when there is already such a competing massive industry with a lot of backing behind them?
I think for us, our strategy has been really focused on taste. How do you compete? So if we can have a product that is, so people who are massive soft drink fans, if we can create a lemon flavored, like as if a lemonade, and it tastes the same as something that's either high sugar or a mixture of sugar and artificial sweeteners, but then there's our version which is naturally sugar free and it tastes the same, then it's only a matter of time that consumers will be like, oh, there's no reason why I should have that one. I would actually just have the one that's better for health. So the challenge for a business like us then is clearly naturally sugar-free is a more expensive process to create that product. So we've had to work very hard on our model to be able to have the ability to have products in the market that aren't crazily more expensive than the big guys. And then ultimately it's that word of mouth and consumers really believing the brand, which is helping to share our message. I think that's been a real key focus for us. So I think it's the fact that we've been around for so many years now, the people that do find Nexba and do have a taste, we've got an incredibly high loyalty amongst those people that drink our products.
Well, something that I like keep on feeling is that you guys have a really clear, crystal clear understanding of who your target market is and what you want to do for those people. So I guess from that standpoint, it doesn't matter what other competition or whoever else the other players are already in the market, because you're so clear on who you're serving. And that itself actually speaks loudly, because people will listen to you more and people will actually see what you do, and they would start to believe in what you believe in as well. So I feel like that's played a massive part in your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess when you're referencing industries like the sugar industry, etc., our products aren't we're not anti-sugar at all. We're just in a consumer-produced product. So part of our Nexba natural sweetener blend and our proprietary formula is so erythritol, as an example, is an ingredient that people aren't familiar with, and it's derived from fermentation of sort of starches and fruits and sugar itself. So the sugar industry is required to sort of produce those products that actually can have a less of a negative effect on the body as well. So it's not to be afraid of it. It's just actually evolving it, because the ability to produce naturally sugar-free products has evolved. So it's a no-brainer that consumers shouldn't have to drink the higher sugar of the artificial products either.
What would you say are some of the hurdles that you've had to personally face along this journey? Because you've had to probably learn lots, you've had to grow lots. What would you say are the biggest hurdles that you have to come through?
I think there's anybody who's a founder or anybody who's just ambitious and focused in the business that you work in. I think ultimately life is about growing and learning to be the best version of yourself. So for Nexba, and Drew and myself, we've always had this naturally brave mantra within the business. We've got really strong values that help drive the business. From a personal growth, which is then leads into your professional growth, like ultimately we've had to grow quickly to become young leaders of a business that's in growth. So you don't jump in knowing how to be the best manager of people. So it's then what are your being able to self-reflect on what are your strengths and weaknesses, and how do you accelerate and focus on the ones that can drive the most value for the business rather than try to do everything. So I think it's my role personally within our business has been to be capable of making myself and comfortable with making myself redundant over and over again, because of the fact that we've been able to encourage and find incredible people to join the journey. So as an example, Steve Smythe, who's our commercial director, he's an incredibly passionate person that saw and believed in our vision with myself and Drew Bilby, and he was ex-PepsiCo. He incredible experience, and he jumped into the business, and that's when I kind of started to hand over a lot of the sales, partnerships, relationships. I'm still around as a founder of the business and somebody to help share in the new innovations and the passion and the direction that we're heading. But he's an incredibly capable person, and more capable than myself in many areas to commercially manage those relationships on a day-to-day basis.
I think it's a point that a lot of founders, I think, get stuck on. It's because they're trying to be perfect and they're trying to control everything that comes in and goes out, but you can only go so much when you do that, but understanding your strengths and weaknesses and actually playing to your strengths and letting your weaknesses be somebody else's strength, I think that's a massive one. It's something that I've always believed in, is that if your dream is something that you can achieve by yourself, you're probably not dreaming big enough, especially if you want to do big things.
Yeah, that's very true. I like that.
Well, if you kind of have like a skill set or a superpower that helped you on this journey, what would you say it is?
So, goodness, I think that by nature, we don't have this as a value in our business, but it was recommended that we did in terms of restless. Obviously, people could see that as a negative, but for me, I probably think quite divergently, and I'm always trying to think about what improvements we can make. So another person that I've met in the past who described himself as like a corporate agitator, I'm probably something similar to that. I love systems. I love process. I personally am not good at following that. but I can completely appreciate the value in those things to helping you set foundations for growth. But personally, I think part of my skill set is the fact that I don't. I probably struggle to operate in that world.
I like, a fact that a lot of people would call it a weakness, and I don't actually think that there are weaknesses. You just have both on various degrees. I love how you use that and use it as a strength.
And that's something that I think Drew and myself have been getting better at more recently as well. And so a friend of mine, Amanda Price, she heads up a thing called High Growth Ventures, and she's been very passionate about how do you support founders in the concept of driving into high growth. So yeah, she's been somebody recently that's been really great for myself and Drew to be in discussions with about now acknowledging that the business is definitely bigger than how do you make a business much bigger than yourselves as you move forward, and what is it that you need in terms of the right people on board to support that.
I'm sure like along the journey, there had been many points where you've either questioned the idea or questioned yourself, or maybe there had even been setbacks. What is your philosophy in dealing with setbacks?
Yeah, somebody recently said to me that I almost like leaning into fear. I don't know if that's true. I think it's just more that it's been Drew and I have had an incredible amount of setbacks and challenges in nearly everything that we've done in business. It's only now that we're really in this period of exciting growth and accelerated growth, but that's because we've learnt a lot over time, and we've adapted over time, and every incremental change that we've made is ultimately what's built the foundations of the business model that we have now. But in terms of setbacks and really dealing with them, because we were so young and we jumped into this, I think that Drew and I just haven't had any other option but to keep moving. And the fact that we are now custodians of families and friends and incredible business people in Australia have backed us, that just adds that layer of pressure, which I guess to some it could be consuming, but for Drew and I think it's also the energy that keeps on giving.
Well, I think fear is a great indicator for something that you deeply desire. So there you go. That makes sense.
I've been fortunate to meet with some great people recently, and some of them who have shared is that you may, as a founder, you may never get that sense of a monkey being on your back, because ultimately that means that you're moving in the right direction.
About Drew, how does it feel like to be working so closely with your brother-in-law, and how does that family dynamic work in business?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's definitely one that Drew and myself have been conscious of over time to try and make that family part even a little bit more professional in a way. Because when you start off in business, we've learned so much about each other. We definitely know that we've got each other's backs, and ultimately the success at Nexba is due to the fact that our skill sets are incredibly different. I think people can often be concerned about family businesses, but ultimately for us, it's part of our strength. It comes down to the authenticity of the brand and what we've created. But definitely when it comes to evolving and being the best united leadership front, because we can have massive little bodies in terms of, because we're so passionate about the direction of the business, we do enjoy battling out those opportunities until we both align. And we realize that doing that in front of everyone can be quite confronting. So for us, it's about knowing when to take conversations offline together, and then really getting a united front. So when we can come back to the team, there's no question about us being united, because whilst it could look, otherwise we realize that can look quite confronting to others if they don't realize the dynamic, which is the fact that we are family.
Well, I guess it really speaks to how strong your relationship is. And I understand, like, when people say, oh, maybe business with family, it's not going to work. But if you don't have great relationships within the family, of course, that's going to end up being a nightmare. But if you actually have got very transparent relations, and you're growing and you're supporting each other to your strengths, I guess it could actually be a blessing.
Yeah, I think it's the key to any relationship, to be honest. Like, communication is everything. And I think if you think of any relationship that breaks down, it's at the essence of it, it's the fact that there's been a unwillingness or a breakdown to be completely open with each other and communicate to then decide whether you can resolve it and move on. And I think that in business, especially when things are tough, where businesses might break down. In fact, Peter Brown, another thing that he told us very early on was his belief is that failures of businesses is typically only from within. So he's been someone very much which is about ensuring that you don't just sweep issues under a carpet, you get them out, you analyze them and you work out what's going on, and then that's how you improve and make your business model even better.
There are a lot of companies whose values are just on the wall, and actually that's not what they do inside, and that's what make companies break, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes down to hiring, all that type of stuff. You need to hire against your values.
Tell me more about that.
I think for our experience and learning is, so our values at Nexba would be fun, be collaborative, be brave, and be authentic. And we define those, we share those with the team, because ultimately for us, that seems to be that mindset that really allows us to grow and work really well. And I think that we've made mistakes where somebody's experience is incredibly great on paper, but then because of the experience of shifting into an emerging, challenging, you need to think a bit differently to survive format, it may not work as well as what you'd expected. So I think whenever we've stepped back and been a bit more honest with the value side of things is when we've made the best decisions in terms of people.
That's really a key point, because I think a lot of people would think that, it's the number of degrees or the certifications or whatever the qualifications that shows on paper. Actually, if that's impressive, that's good enough. But I think the values part play a really, really big game, especially in a company that needs to be very agile and move with the market, and there's a lot of things changing. If you're not passionate about what you guys are doing, and also if you do not have that personality that you can take things on board and just move with everything and align with your values, I think that would not be good for the company, I guess.
No, absolutely. Not agree more.
when you were little, if somebody told you this is what you're going to be doing so many years down the line, would you have believed it?
Yes. I'm probably I am somebody who's personally always set goals and had them up on the wall, and everything's kind of progressed. I didn't have Nexba on the wall when I was a kid, but I think I had something called Chillax and Cheers or something weird was on my thing. But I've always been passionate about business and startups, and which is why when Drew tapped me on the shoulder, I didn't question jumping in, is because I've always wanted to help create something that can make an impact. And even if that's just simply the people that you're employing and the families that stem off that, I think that's a nice way to live, and it's what energizes me, and it's what moves me and Drew forward in terms of shooting higher and aiming for bigger impact in the industry as well.
How did you guys end up doing like law and engineering? Like it feels like you guys always had that entrepreneurial gene in you. How did you end up doing that?
I kind of think law is the new business degree. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people that I've maybe it's because I took so long at uni. But a lot of people doing a law degree these days, a lot of them end up stemming out of law and going into business. I think it's just a solid base. I can't speak on Drew's behalf why he went into engineering. I guess from my perspective, I liked the sound. I liked the sound of being a lawyer when I was a kid, and to be honest, I did enjoy it when I was in there. But I think what made both of us step out is an acknowledgement that for us, this concept of actually doing something that can make an impact, it's weird. When I was in law, I felt like unless I was a partner from day one, which never happens, I felt like it'd be anybody could actually replace me and do that job. So that's kind of what drove me to do what I'm doing now.
Well, that actually gives me a nice segue into my next question, which was, well, are there what kind of parts that you got from doing your degree and from that profession? What kind of parts did you bring into the business, and that you went and thought, oh, actually, that's really good that we did that?
Yeah, I think our degrees have been our degrees are actually kind of reflect what our roles are within the business. Like Drew's with his engineering, he's very much Australia, like the CEO of our team, and a strong leader and a strong project manager. Whereas my role is very much in the growth and stakeholder management, and it's allowed me to review contracts and actually kind of have a lens of an understanding of what I'm reviewing ever since we began. So I think it has been incredibly valuable. And then the other thing that I think a law and a communications degree that I did at UTS, it does give you that base of analysing problems and knowing that you need to look at both sides and all that type of stuff, because that's the key to any relationship in a commercial sense as well. So yeah, I think it has been valuable and has led it to the specific roles that both Drew and myself have as we always evolve and continue to grow the business.
Well, one thing I actually forgot to ask is about raising capital, because I know that after bootstrapping, you guys started to raise capital to build a much bigger brand. Now, I know a lot of people actually limit themselves just to be self-funded, and that itself, it is quite limiting, because you can't hire the best people to put in the best places, so then you would get the best result, but rather you're actually going from what you have. So what was your thinking around raising capital, and how did you think that, this is actually what we want to do, and this is how we want to move forward?
Drew and I were very fortunate. My friend of mine, Steve Malbani, for many years, he's an ex-partner at PwC, and he now works out on his own. He's also a co-founder of a crowdfunding platform called Venture Crowd, which Nexba has used in our capital raising process. I think it was for us, I think the focus for any business is really looking at what is your business strategy, and then do you have a capital strategy that aligns with that? And obviously, if you can have a business strategy that is organically funded, then that's amazing. That's amazing. So if you can, or you should ask yourself, can you drive that business strategy a bit further? And maybe you do have a need for additional capital. But for us, once we owned and had our IP in this proprietary natural sweetener blend, we definitely knew that now was the time to scale the business and have an injection of capital to really put us on the path that we're now on in terms of the brand equity and the brand awareness that we have in Australia. So for us, it was just a simple decision of we were ready. We'd had the foundations laid, and we knew that it was now time to step up our growth. And that's why last year we grew at 148%. We expect to grow even further than that in FY19 and FY20. Our budget's looking incredibly exciting as a base. So the process of capital raising is an intense one. So that's part of my role, and I drove that, but it's a incredibly valuable experience as well, because it forces your business to step up, or it definitely has for Nexba, in terms of simple things, in terms of governance, the ability to be, I think for any business, I would treat, if you are doing capital raise route, any equity you bring in should be smart capital. Otherwise, if you can find a way to get debt, I would choose debt. But if you can get equity that brings with it, who we call our investors our Nexba legends, because they've believed in our journey and our story, and ultimately each of them comes with experiences that are different to what we've had. So when you do come across any potential risks or any opportunities, you can communicate those, and you can fast track, or you can then get insights to adapt the strategies you have to unlock both the opportunities and the risks in the business. So I think it's been an incredible positive process for us, and it's definitely put us in the position now where we have stepped overseas and we've launched into the UK, and the Australian business is in high growth.
Well, along the journey, what would you say is the best advice and the worst advice you've been given?
I don't think I've ever been given worst advice, because yeah, I think I probably shared a few of them in terms of best advice. I think my approach to learning has been to engage with many. I think it's Ray Dalio who wrote a book called Principles, and he describes them as believable people. I think that's kind of been my approach, which is because we weren't from the industry, I have sought out advice from many people, or to speak to believable people about issues or challenges that we've got. And ultimately, I don't think you could ever describe the advice you've been given as bad advice. I think that only because I think you need to take ownership of the decisions you make, even if you're speaking to a lot of people. So if I've followed advice, I've made that decision to take that path based on what I've known. So the negative of that is for me to own, I guess.
So a lot of people would say, yeah, there is a worse advice, but I understand what you say, because maybe that advice would work in a different context to a different person in different situations. So it's not necessarily the right one at that stage. So all advice is advice.
Exactly.
Oh, if you could go back to the beginning of when you first started, what would you change about how you went about doing things now, knowing what you know now?
It's a great question. In terms of what I would change, to be honest, there wouldn't be much. But with what I would say, building from that is, I think that 9 years in, our ability to scale is far quicker. So because of everything that we've learned over a period of time, when we're launching into a new market, which could almost be seen as a new business, the ability for us to scale quick is real and it's easy. So I think if I was to start Nexba again, it's a hard question to answer, but I think it would be, or if I was to enter a brand new industry where I don't have the knowledge, I wouldn't be afraid of seeking external support quicker in terms of shaping and testing those concepts. So I think that we went the right approach in terms of bootstrapping, because then once an idea was proven, then we would accelerate, which is why we did the capital raise. So I think that's proved out really positive for us. Yeah, what would I change? I don't know. Maybe I would prepare myself mentally more for the fact that I would be here 9 years later. I don't know. But I'm very happy to be here 9 years later as well. I think I told my dad, who supported me as well, I was like, I'll be able to give back the bit of money that he supported me 2 years later. So maybe I would have a different mindset on that 2-year period.
That's actually really funny, because a lot of people have this idea, oh yeah, we're gonna make money tomorrow, next week, next month. You're probably looking at like a 5 to 10 year plan.
Yeah,
but
I would.
I don't come to terms with that.
I think I think that maybe that's the learning. I would prepare the people around me to appreciate that it's going to be a long journey.
Yeah. And I guess if you guys did approach things in a way, oh yeah, we're gonna make money tomorrow, I don't think that the quality that you guys have put into the product and the passion that you have would have come through the same way that it does now.
No, I absolutely fundamentally believe that if anybody comes to you and says they're in business or they've got an idea to make money, that's probably where I'd run away from. It's the wrong, for me, that's the wrong business model. And it would not be, it's the wrong business model because it can't be sustainable, in my view. But that's only from my experience. Because ultimately, you need to be fulfilling a need and a gap and adding value. And that takes investment and it takes time.
Yeah, and also I guess that means you're in business and you're just in such a hurry to get out of it because you're not enjoying what you're doing, and that's the reason why a lot of people go into business as well.
And investors wouldn't back that either. Like, people back authenticity and clear direction, and if people think that it's all about there's just no authentic integrity behind something that's purely designed to be a cash cow. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should have changed. And I recently did this through the High Growth Ventures. I got introduced to this Fingerprints for Success from Michelle Duval, and maybe that's one of the reasons why my score on money was probably too low. I need to appreciate that more.
Well, that's an upper argument, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say is if you can think of like the highest or the number one thing that you've learned about yourself along the journey?
I am resilient, maybe. I think resilience has been a big key. And I've just been so fortunate to have an incredible business partner, being Drew, backing the journey as well. So I think that acknowledging that it's better to do it with somebody else than just yourself has been a really positive experience for us and for myself.
I've heard from somewhere that business is a game of endurance. It comes down to how much you can endure, like how many punches, right? And I guess the number of things that you can endure and go through, which most of the time we don't realize how much actually we can take until we actually go through them and take them.
Yeah, and 100%. And I think when you do endure, when you do get through, and we're in a really exciting period, I think what's fascinating is then it's a new level of anxiety in a way, because you're like, wow, everything's going well. I feel like I'm missing something. So what's what's coming? And then I'm constantly trying to see what's coming at us. But maybe I should just enjoy the growth. You know.
Yeah. So what is next for Nexba? Like, what's happening? Because I know that you guys just launched, or maybe it's been a while that you launched a new line of products rather than the soft drinks.
Yeah, so we launched tonic waters into Coles and Woolies. Our kombuchas in a big way have been launched into Woolworths. We'll see a lot of exciting innovation in that space, where you will see a lot of exciting innovation for us in the kombucha space. But ultimately, as I shared, our opportunity is about reinventing any high sugar artificial category. So there'll be a lot more innovation with Coles and Woolworths in terms of the Australian retailers. Will also be in terms of where my focus is. Hopefully you will see some exciting expansion through the UK and through our partnership that we've got with Sainsbury's as part of the Future Brands team there. So just a lot of nice packaging of Nexba, hopefully just appearing in more shelves and in more fridges.
Well, I think your packaging is killing at the moment anyway, so I think you're good. So the kombucha range, just tell us a little bit about it, because I think it's not just kombucha. I think you guys have got something special in there. I know about it, but I would rather hear it from you. I think the audience would love to.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time before we launched our kombucha range. Reason being is we wanted to ensure that the benefit of the probiotics got to your gut after you drank it. So there's a lot of products on the market that the probiotic benefit actually dies before it reaches your gut. So we're one of the few brands that Fazans have approved to say promotes good gut health. And the technology that we've got in there is, I guess, it's called a Bacillus coagulant, sorry, Bacillus coagulant, which is, the way to describe that is that the probiotic benefit is almost like a seed that then germinates when it hits your gut. So it allows us to have been one of the first brands in Woolworths to be ambient on shelf. So we've got 4 packs in Woolworths, and the reason that we were allowed to do that was because of the technology in the product. Feel free to get into stores and enjoy our kombucha, and I think what is unique to our flavour and taste is because of that technology. When you do taste it, it's going to remind you a lot more of the flavours that that range is. So it's less a fermented kombucha taste. It's very much a delicious, yummy drink based on the flavours.
I think it sounds amazing because a lot of people don't know these things. So I think there's an educational piece that has to happen with it, because a lot of people would go, oh yeah, kombucha, I know what it is. But you guys have gone beyond what is actually in the market and actually bring in the health benefits that people could actually have, and I guess have kept to your vision and the person and purpose and the passion that you have for products, and kept it with integrity and in actually bringing the healthy drinks to life, I guess.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting point. Like, the one change or improvement to our vision is we always had the no sugar, nothing artificial in our, I guess, the vision and the pipeline of the products we create, but we've actually added in the promoting the good gut health benefits as well is built into the innovations that we create moving forward. So if we can have beverages that are also functional and adding benefits to health as well, being no sugar, nothing artificial, I think that's a really exciting space to continue to see come from Nexba in the years ahead.
Nice. Well, Troy, it has been absolutely amazing having you on the show. Now, for people who would love to find you and contact you and connect with your brand and get to know and buy them, just tell us a little bit about how they can do that.
Yeah, great. I guess the easiest way to keep up to date with Nexba news is through our website, nexba.com, or on Facebook and Instagram, just looking up Nexba as well. For myself, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. Obviously, I'll try my best to get back to you as soon as I can, but yeah, feel free to hit me up there. I've always been very lucky to use LinkedIn to reach out to people to learn a lot. So if I can share any further insights, I'd love to. But thanks for listening, and hopefully that was okay for you guys.
Thank you so much. It was a great chat.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate it. India, thank you.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and got lots out of it. And I don't know whether you noticed, but they have been thinking at a different level from the beginning that has obviously attributed to the success that they have had. So, as always, please go to www.vindyav.com, so that's VINDYAVEE.com, and make sure that you look at the show notes, because in the show notes I have put all the resources that he had shared and all the links to Nexba and their new products. And also, if you want to get in touch with Troy, I have made sure that I have put all the contact information for him as well. So that is it for our episode today. Until I meet you guys next week, have fun and keep at it in your extraordinary journey.